discuss about the opportunities of SGLT2 inhibitor in CKD management. So these are the epidemiology of the chronic kidney disease, and the data is showing there is huge burden of the chronic kidney disease worldwide. So we all know the definitions, that is the structure and functional defects of the kidney for more than 3 months. There are three the categories based on GFR as well as albuminuria, and so these are the risk factors, namely diabetes, high blood pressures, obesity, family history, and advanced ages. And here showing the diabetes and hypertension that are the leading causes of the kidney failure. So natural history of the diabetic kidney disease, this is one of the important one, where there it is showing the how the diabetes that leading to chronic kidney disease from the microalbuminuria, then proteinuria, years to years, and it was thought that the increased interglomerular pressure that that is having the predisposing role in development of chronic kidney disease from diabetes. So this is a complicated scenario where it was showing the how diabetes is causing the podocyte damage. So we did not to know some more details about that. These are the pathophysiology of the diabetic kidney disease, and it is showing there are various combinations and that can lead to progressions of the chronic kidney disease, namely the hyperfiltration and stress on the podocytes, and ultimately there is predispositions of the inflammations and scarring, and ultimately there are both glomerulosclerosis and tubulointerstitial fibrosis, and resulting in the chronic kidney disease. So if there is early interventions of the proteinuria, namely albuminuria, we can try to prevent the progressions of the diabetic kidney disease. So in the early intervention phase, there is less progressions of the chronic kidney disease. So what are the treatment options we still have to slow the progressions of the CKD? Namely the intensive glycemic control, next antihypertensive therapy including the ACE inhibitors and ARB, and the blood pressure control. The blood pressure should be lesser than 130 by 80 mm mercury. Other comprehensive cares in diabetic and chronic kidney disease, that is from the medical nutrition therapy, smoking cessation, to the blood pressure control that I have already told, and the lipid management. The next important one that is becoming the SGLT2 inhibitors. So the lifestyle interventions according to the KDIGO guideline in 2022 that suggests the protein intake should be 0.8 gram protein per kg per day for those with diabetes and CKD not treated with dialysis, and sodium intake should be lesser than 2 gram per day, and moderate intensity physical activity in CKD patients, that is 150 minutes per week. Now the treatment approach for those with CKD, optimization of glycemic control, I have already told. Blood pressure level should be lesser than 130/80, use of ACE inhibitor or ARB, more than one drug is usually required, and a diuretic regimen a diuretic should be part of this regimen. The glycemic target should be lesser than 6.5% HbA1c to less than 8% in patients with diabetes and CKD not treated with dialysis. So the choice of anti-hyperglycemic agent in CKD, that is including the sulfonylurea, the DPP4 inhibitors and SGLT2 inhibitors, some needing the dose reductions or adjustment according to the GFR. So it is the guideline by American Diabetic Association in 2021. In cardiovascular outcome trials, EMPA, CANA and dapagliflozin all had beneficial effects on indices of the CKD, and empagliflozin and dapagliflozin have shown reduction in CKD progression. So the sodium glucose cotransporter 2 inhibitors, or SGLT2 inhibitors, that is the novel treatment options for CKD, and it is acting on the proximal tubular cells. These SGLT2 inhibitors has some effect on decreasing the glomerular hyperfiltration and ultimately CKD progression. So what are the renoprotective mechanisms of SGLT2 inhibitors? Like GFR reduction by decreasing the glomerular hyperfiltration. It is having some neurohormonal effect by decreasing the sympathetic nervous system overactivity and RAS activation. It also prevents the inflammation and fibrosis, improve the tubular oxygenation. That's how it stabilizes the EGFR, decreases albuminuria, decreases blood pressure, decreases tubular and glomerular injury, and as well as decrease renal ischemic injury and increase the hematocrit. So these are the greatest pharmacological advancement in nephrology after RAS blockers. So here few studies which are showing the renal outcomes, all are showing the good improvement after using the SGLT2 inhibitor in CKD progression. So one of them is dapagliflozin, and it is also sometimes available in the hospital setup too. So dapagliflozin is indicated for the treatment of CKD patients up to stage 3 EGFR more than 30 ml per minute per 1.73 meters square. So it should be there should be some assessment of the renal function before initiating. Usually not recommended after when EGFR less than 30. And recommended dose in CKD is 10 mg once daily. Total glucose loss in the pharmacodynamics 70 to 80 gram. Maximum HbA1c reduction, that is it can reduce 0.5 to 1% HbA1c. It produces osmotic diuresis, and it also has some role in the loss of calorie and loss of weight, and also it can reduce BP by 4 to 6 millimeter mercury. So this is one important trial, that is the DAPA CKD trial. The aim of the trial is to examine the effect of the dapagliflozin in patients with CKD with or without type 2 diabetes. And that was a RCT, randomized controlled trial, where dapagliflozin 10 mg once daily given or placebo to the all patients who are having either diabetes or non-diabetic, but the EGFR was 25 to 75 ml per minute, and the urine albumin creatinine ratio was more than 200 to 5000. The study duration was 2.4 years, and the primary outcome that was studied, that is the composite of sustained decline in EGFR of at least 50%, end stage kidney disease or death from renal or cardiovascular disease. In the DAPA CKD trial, that shows the dapagliflozin slowed the decline in EGFR as compared to the placebo. And here is the renal specific composite outcome. The composite of sustained decline in the GFR of at least 50%, end stage kidney disease or death from renal cardiovascular disease. A primary outcome event occurred in 9.2% in dapagliflozin group, but 14.5% who are not having dapagliflozin. So that there was significant p-value, and it was showing that dapagliflozin has some significant role in reducing CKD progression. So the conclusions of this study, that is CKD patients who received dapagliflozin had significantly lower risk of a composite of sustained decline in EGFR of at least 50%, was found to be beneficial in CKD patients independent of presence or absence of type 2 diabetes, and patients who received dapagliflozin had a lower risk of death from the cardiovascular point of view too. So these are all I have already discussed in the previous slides. So the summary: diabetes is the leading cause of CKD, and intensive glycemic control lessens the progressions of microalbuminuria. Guidelines recommend SGLT2 inhibitor to reduce the progression of CKD, and not only CKD, it also having some role in the cardiovascular disease in patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus, and it displayed the renoprotective effects in the diabetic kidney disease. And dapagliflozin is one of the important among the gliflozins, have shown reduction in CKD progression, and so demonstrated clear treatment benefits not only in the kidney outcomes but also in the cardiovascular outcomes regardless of the presence of diabetes. Thank you.